Ethan slowly opened his eyes, but everything around him felt strange, heavy, and unreal. His head pounded like someone had hit him with a metal hammer. When he tried to move, cold chains pulled his wrists back. His heart jumped inside his chest. He was not in his home. He was not even on Earth. He found himself inside a huge glowing room. Walls made of metallic silver stones that pulsed with blue light. The air smelled different, sharp and clean, like a hospital but mixed with something alien. Strange shadows moved behind the walls, and soft humming sounds echoed like machines breathing. Ethan was lying on the floor, chained like an animal. His hands shaking, he sat up slowly, trying to understand what was happening. A door opened with a bright hiss. 3 tall alien guards stepped inside. Their skin was dark gray, their eyes bright yellow, their armor shining with sharp edges. They didn't speak. One guard grabbed Ethan's chain and pulled him up roughly. Ethan stumbled, but the guard didn't care. They dragged him into a long hallway filled with strange symbols and lights. Everywhere he looked, servants, different aliens, moved silently with fear on their faces. No one dared to look at him. At the end of the hallway, a large throne-like chair waited, and on it sat the alien Lord Vrax. He was taller than the guards, stronger, more terrifying. His armor looked alive, glowing with red veins. His eyes were cold, like someone who enjoyed controlling others. Ethan felt his heart freeze. "So," Vrax said, voice calm but dangerous, "the new human is awake." Ethan tried to speak, but his throat was dry. "You belong to the Joran family now," Vrax continued. "You will serve. You will obey. And you will survive only if you do not anger me." The guards pushed Ethan forward and removed his chains. Vrax stood up and walked around him like a hunter inspecting prey. "Humans are weak," Vrax whispered, "but useful." Ethan wanted to shout, to fight, to run. But he was alone, powerless, and far from his world. Then someone entered the room. A soft glow spread like morning light. Ethan stopped breathing for a moment. A woman walked in, an alien woman, but unlike anyone he had seen in this nightmare place. Her skin was light silver with a soft blue shine, her eyes gentle and deep, glowing like distant stars. Her hair fell like smooth white silk, braided with thin threads of gold. She wore a flowing robe that shimmered softly when she moved. Everyone became silent. This was Lady Soraya, Vrax's wife. She walked past the guards without fear. But there was sadness in her eyes, like a heavy weight she carried every second. Vrax spoke sharply. "Soraya, this slave is not for you. He is for labor." Soraya didn't look at her husband. Instead, she looked at Ethan, and Ethan felt something warm touch his chest. Her eyes were kind, but also tired, like she was trapped in her own invisible cage. "Make sure he is fed," she said softly. "He looks injured." Vrax's eyes burned with anger, but Soraya didn't flinch. She turned and walked away, leaving a trail of quiet beauty behind her. Ethan didn't understand why simple kindness hit him so deeply. Maybe because in this cruel, alien world, she was the first being who looked at him like he was a person, not property. The guards pulled Ethan again, taking him to the servant quarters. They pushed him inside a large kitchen area filled with cooking fires and glowing pots. The other servants stared at him with fear. A small alien woman handed him water and bread. He sat alone in the corner, drinking slowly. Trying to calm his shaking hands, his mind kept replaying the image of Soraya, her calm voice, her sad eyes, her quiet strength standing beside a cruel husband. Why did she help him? Why did she look at him like she understood his pain? Ethan didn't want trouble. He didn't want attention. But he could not forget her. Fear, confusion, and something strange, something he couldn't name mixed inside him. He was a slave in an alien home. But from the moment he saw Soraya, he knew this place would change his life forever. He didn't know it yet. But this forbidden connection would become the most dangerous thing in his new world. Ethan woke before the alien sun rose, his body sore from the chains, the work, and the cold stone floor he slept on. The servant quarters were dim, quiet, and filled with strange smells from last night's cooking. Other servants moved slowly, afraid of making noise that might wake the guards. As Ethan rubbed his aching wrists, he remembered Soraya, the alien woman with soft eyes and a hidden sadness. The memory felt unreal, like something his mind created to escape the nightmare. Yet it had happened. She had spoken for him, defended him, even if only for a moment. A worker tapped his shoulder. "Human," she whispered, voice shaky, "you must come. Morning tasks start now." Ethan followed the small alien woman through a long hallway. Glowing crystals lit the path, giving everything a soft blue light. He saw servants rushing, carrying heavy baskets, cleaning tall sculptures, preparing for the day. Then he heard it, a deep roar of an angry voice. "Lord Vrax!" The voice thundered through the halls, making servants freeze in fear. Ethan's heart raced as they turned a corner and saw Vrax shouting at a guard, smashing his staff on the ground. The guard knelt, shaking, terrified. "I want the estate spotless before the council arrives," Vrax barked. "No mistakes today. No excuses." Ethan tried to slip past quietly, but Vrax's eyes locked onto him like a hawk spotting prey. "You," Vrax growled. Ethan stiffened. "Follow me." Ethan's throat tightened, but he obeyed. Vrax led him through the massive estate, where large windows showed, alien trees with glowing leaves dancing in the wind. Vrax stopped at a tall balcony and pointed outside. "You will work in the outer gardens today. They are sacred. Do not damage anything. Do not slow down. And do not let me hear complaints." Ethan nodded quietly. Then Vrax stepped closer, voice low and threatening. "And stay away from my wife." Ethan's blood turned cold. Vrax's eyes shone with warning. "She speaks to servants too kindly. Do not mistake that for permission to talk to her. Do you understand?" Ethan swallowed. "Yes, I understand." "Good," Vrax said. "Because if you don't, you won't live long enough to regret it." With that, Vrax left. Ethan felt his knees weaken, but he forced himself to stand straight. He had to survive. He had no choice. When he reached the gardens, he was shocked by their beauty. Giant silver leaves shimmered like glass. Blue flowers opened as the alien sun rose. Trees shaped like spirals glowed gently, but the beauty didn't matter. His task was hard and endless. He shoveled strange soil, cut thick vines, carried heavy stones, and fixed old machines. Sweat covered his body. Pain shot through his arms. Hours passed. He worked alone until he felt a presence nearby. He turned. Soraya stood a few steps away. Watching him quietly, his heart jumped. She wore a simple robe today, soft white with little beads that shined like tiny stars. Her face looked tired, but calm. Ethan quickly looked down, afraid Vrax might appear. "You are injured again," she said softly. Ethan avoided her eyes. "I'm fine, my lady." "You don't have to call me that," she whispered. "My name is Soraya." Hearing her name spoken so gently made Ethan's chest tighten. She stepped closer. "I am sorry for what Vrax said to you. You heard?" Ethan asked. "He always shouts," she said sadly. "Everyone hears." Ethan finally looked at her. There was deep sadness in her eyes, not just for herself, but for him too. Soraya noticed his bruised hands. She touched his wrist lightly. Her touch felt warm, gentle, completely different from the cruelty of this place. "You should not be treated like this," she whispered. "No one should." Ethan felt something strange, something dangerous rise inside him. A feeling he wasn't supposed to have. He quickly backed away. "If Lord Vrax sees us talking, he won't," she said. "He is busy with the council." She looked around nervously, then placed a small glowing bottle in his hand. This will help your pain. Drink only a little. Ethan stared at the bottle, surprised. Why are you helping me? Soraya looked at the glowing gardens, her voice breaking. Because. In this place, kindness is the last thing we have left. Before he could reply, footsteps echoed. She quickly stepped back, her face turning calm and distant. A guard approached, bowing. Lady Soraya, the council is waiting. She nodded and walked away, but just before turning the corner, she looked at Ethan one last time. The kind of look that said she wished she could say more. Ethan stood frozen. Her kindness was dangerous. Her sadness was dangerous. And the strange warmth he felt inside him. That was the most dangerous thing of all. Because he didn't know it yet. But the forbidden bond between them had already begun. Ethan worked in the gardens until his arms felt like they were made of stone. The alien plants were heavier than earth plants, and the glowing vines wrapped tightly around anything they touched. Every time Ethan cut one, a spark of blue light shot out, almost like the plant was alive and angry. Sweat ran down his face, his back ached, and his hands burned with fresh blisters. But none of this hurt as much as the thought stuck in his mind. Her soft voice, her worried eyes, her gentle touch on his wrist. Ethan knew he should forget it. He was a slave. She was the wife of the cruelest alien lord he had ever seen. Even speaking to her was dangerous. Caring for her? Unthinkable. But the memory of her kept returning. No matter how hard he tried to push it away. He was wiping sweat from his brow when he heard light footsteps behind him. He turned sharply. A small alien servant girl stood there, trembling slightly. You are the new human? She asked quietly. Ethan nodded. She looked around nervously before whispering. The lady. Lady Soraya. She asked if you are well. Ethan's chest tightened. Please, he said. Do not say anything that could get her in trouble. The girl nodded quickly. I understand, the Lord. He hurts people for less. Ethan's jaw clenched. He wanted to shout. He wanted to fight Vrax, but he had no power here. He had nothing except the strange warmth in Soraya's eyes. The girl left him alone again, and Ethan continued working. The hours dragged on, and when the alien sun moved toward the horizon, glowing orange like a burning crystal, Ethan was finally allowed to rest. But peace didn't last. Suddenly, a loud alarm echoed through the estate, sharp, high-pitched, and frightening. Servants panicked, running in every direction. Ethan's heart raced. A guard shouted, all workers inside. Now, Ethan followed the stream of scared servants into the main hall. Everyone whispered, terrified. The air felt heavy, dangerous. Then Lord Vrax stormed in. His armor glowed with violent red light. His eyes burned like molten metal. His aura alone made everyone drop to their knees. Ethan lowered his head but kept his ears open. There was a breach in the border, Vrax growled. Someone tried to escape their duties. A servant hid forbidden medicine. Ethan's blood ran cold. Was it the bottle Soraya gave him? Vrax continued. Whoever helped them will suffer. A guard whispered something in Vrax's ear. Vrax's expression darkened even more. Bring the human forward. Ethan froze. Two guards grabbed him, pulling him violently into the center of the hall. Vrax stepped close, towering over him like a monster carved from fire. You were seen talking to my wife. Vrax snarled. Ethan's heart hammered. He felt the whole room staring at him, waiting to see if Vrax would kill him. I did not approach her, Ethan said quietly. She approached me. Gasps filled the room. Vrax's anger snapped like a whip. You dare speak her name? Vrax roared. You dare suggest she lowered herself to speak with you? Ethan looked down. I only answered when she spoke. For a moment, the room felt like it stopped breathing. Then Vrax struck him. A glowing whip flashed across Ethan's back. Pain exploded through him, knocking him to the floor. Servants cried silently. No one dared help him. Vrax whipped him again and again, until then, Ethan's vision blurred and the floor beneath him looked like it was moving. "Take him away," Vrax said coldly. "Tomorrow he returns to work. If he collapses, leave him there." The guards dragged Ethan out like a damaged tool. His skin burned, his breath shook, and darkness pulled at his vision as they threw him into the servant quarters. He heard soft footsteps rushing in. Seray. She knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she touched his bleeding back. Tears filled her glowing eyes. "I am sorry," she whispered desperately. "This happened because of me." Ethan tried to speak, but his voice was weak. "It's not your fault. He will kill you if this continues," she said, panic in her voice. "I cannot stand and watch this." She placed her glowing hands over his wounds. Soft blue light spread across his skin, easing some of the pain. Her voice broke. Please stay alive. I don't want to lose you." Ethan closed his eyes, not from pain, but from the shock of hearing her say those words. She didn't want to lose him. This was no longer kindness. This was something deeper. Something forbidden, something dangerous for both of them. Ethan woke in the middle of the night, pain shooting through his back like fire. The wounds from Vrax's glowing whip still burned, even though Soraya had healed some of the surface damage. Every breath felt heavy, but the memory of her trembling hands, her soft voice, her desperate words, they pushed him to stay awake, to keep fighting, outside. The alien moonlight spilled through the small window of the servant room, painting everything in pale silver. Some servants slept on the floor, curled up like scared children. Others whispered quietly, worried Vrax might return. Ethan tried to sit up, but his body protested. The pain stabbed sharply, forcing him to bite his lip to keep from crying out. Then he heard soft footsteps approaching. He froze. A shadow moved quietly near the door, then stepped inside. It was Seraya. She carried a small lantern glowing with blue light. Her robe fluttered gently as she walked, and for the first time, Ethan realized how fragile she looked, like someone carrying 1,000 invisible chains. "You should not be here," Ethan whispered, fear mixing with warmth in his voice. "I don't care," she replied softly. "I needed to see if you were still alive." Her words hit him harder than any whip. She knelt beside him again, her fingers gently touching the edge of his bandaged wound. He winced, and she immediately pulled back, guilt filling her eyes. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I should have protected you. He punished you because of me." "You didn't do anything wrong," Ethan said quietly. "You were kind. That's not wrong." Soraya looked down, her long white lashes trembling. "Kindness is dangerous here," she said. "Especially between us." Ethan's chest tightened, but before he could reply, Soraya opened a small pouch and took out glowing herbs. She pressed them gently onto his back. The herbs burned for a moment, then brought cooling relief. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Thank you." Soraya didn't answer. She kept her hands on his wounds, her face close to his back, her breath shaky. After several minutes of silence, she finally spoke, voice barely above a whisper. "You don't belong here. You don't deserve this life." Ethan turned his head slightly. "Neither do you." Soraya stiffened. Her hands paused. He had said something no one ever dared to say out loud. "I see the bruises," Ethan said softly. "The fear in your eyes when Vrax looks at you. I see how much you suffer." Soraya closed her eyes, her pain visible even in the dim light. "He wasn't always like this," she whispered. "But power changes people. And when he became ruler of the estate, I became another thing he owned." Ethan felt a deep ache in his chest, not physical pain, but something stronger. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. Soraya looked at him, eyes full of sadness. "Don't be. I stopped hoping for freedom long ago. She finished applying the herbs and sat beside him, her hands resting weakly in her lap. The silence between them felt heavy, but not empty. It was filled with unspoken truths, unspoken fears, and something growing too dangerous. A sudden rumble shook the walls. Ethan flinched. Soraya grabbed his arm, startled. What was that? She whispered. Another rumble, louder this time, echoed across the estate. Servants woke up, panicking. Lights flickered. The ground trembled like something huge was moving underground. It's a storm, Ethan said, hearing the howl outside. I saw dark clouds earlier. Soraya stood quickly, fear rising in her eyes. This is not a normal storm. On this planet, storms can destroy whole estates. A loud crack split through the sky like thunder tearing open metal. The wind screamed outside. The building shook again, harder this time. A servant shouted, "The shields are weakening." Soraya gasped. If the shields collapse, the outer walls will fall apart. Ethan forced himself up, ignoring the pain. Come on. We need to get somewhere safe. Another roar exploded outside, and a huge piece of the ceiling cracked. Dust rained down on them. Soraya stumbled, and Ethan grabbed her without thinking. Their eyes met, fear and something deeper flashing between them. He steadied her. Stay close. She nodded, breath trembling. They rushed toward the hallway as the estate shook violently. Sparks flew from the walls. Glowing crystal lamps shattered. Servants screamed, running for shelter. As they reached the main corridor, a large beam suddenly collapsed from above. Ethan pushed Soraya out of the way. The beam crashed behind him, blocking the path. Soraya screamed his name, reaching through the dust. Ethan! He coughed, dust filling his lungs. I'm okay. Keep moving. No. She cried, trying to reach him. I won't leave you. Another crash boomed, louder than ever. Ethan shouted, Soraya, run, please! Her eyes filled with fear, pain, and something she could no longer hide. I can't lose you, she whispered. Those words struck him deeper than any whip. The storm outside roared like a beast, tearing the sky apart, but inside the collapsing estate, something even more dangerous had begun. Two hearts, chained by fate, now beating for each other. Dust filled the air as Ethan pushed the fallen beam aside, with all the strength left in his battered body. The storm outside roared like a living creature, shaking the walls again and again. But Ethan's eyes were only searching for one thing, Soraya. When he finally climbed over the broken debris and stepped into the hallway, he saw her a few meters ahead, coughing and wiping dust from her glowing lashes. The moment she noticed him, her face softened with relief. Ethan! She rushed toward him, her robe fluttering like white light in the chaos. I'm fine, he said, though his back burned with every breath. Before he could say more, another crash thundered through the estate, and a giant window shattered, letting the violent storm winds explode inside the corridor. Cold air slammed into them. Loose objects flew past them like weapons. Servants screamed and clung to pillars. Ethan grabbed Soraya's hand and pulled her close so she wouldn't be thrown across the hall. Stay behind me, he shouted over the wind. Soraya's hand trembled inside his, but she didn't let go. We need to reach the inner vault, she said. It's the only part of the estate strong enough to survive this storm. Lead the way. She nodded and pulled him through the shaking halls. They passed collapsing ceilings, falling lamps, and terrified servants running for safety. Ethan stayed close to Soraya, shielding her from falling debris. Every time the wind hit, she clutched his arm tighter. As they turned a corner, a large metal door blocked their path. It had fallen from above and wedged itself into the floor. Soraya stopped, panic rising in her voice. We can't get through. Ethan stepped forward and tried to lift it, but it was too heavy. Pain shot through his back, almost dropping him to his knees. Soraya placed her hand on his shoulder. "Don't hurt yourself. We'll find another path." But there was no other path. The hallway behind them was already collapsing. They were trapped. Ethan inhaled sharply. "Stand back. What are you?" He didn't let her finish. He pushed his body against the door with all his weight, using every bit of strength he had left. His muscles burned, his wounds opened again. But he kept pushing. Soraya stared at him, eyes wide with fear and awe. He pushed again, harder. The door shifted slightly. He pushed again. The metal groaned, and finally, with one last painful effort, the heavy door slid enough for Soraya to slip through. She turned back, fear in her eyes. "Ethan, come quickly." He squeezed through the narrow gap, leaving blood on the metal edge. Soraya immediately caught him as he stumbled. "You're hurt," she whispered shakily. "It's nothing," he said, breathing hard. "Let's keep going." They hurried down the next hallway, which led toward the inner vault until a deep, furious voice echoed behind them. "Stop." Ethan and Soraya froze. Lord Vrack stood at the end of the corridor, his red armor glowing like molten fire. The storm wind whipped around him, but his intense rage seemed stronger than the storm itself. Ethan felt Soraya's grip tighten around his arm. Vrack stepped closer, each step heavy and dangerous. "My wife," he growled, "running with a slave? Do you think I am blind?" Soraya stepped in front of Ethan, shocking Ethan completely. "Vrax, stop," she said firmly. "This storm is killing people. This is not the time." But Vrax's eyes were locked on Ethan. "You think I don't see what's happening?" He roared. "You think I don't see how you look at him? How you protect him?" Soraya's voice broke. "You hurt him for no reason. I hurt what belongs to me," Vrax snapped. "And you," his voice cracked with dark fury, "you dare stand between me and a slave?" Ethan stepped forward. "She's trying to stop people from dying. This isn't about—" Vrax's energy whip snapped to life in his hand. Ethan's words died in his throat. Soraya cried, "No, stop!" Vrax pointed the glowing whip at Ethan. "I warned you once, human. Stay away from her." "But you didn't listen." Soraya grabbed Vrax's arm. "If you hurt him again, I will." She stopped, voice trembling. Vrax turned toward her slowly. "You will what?" Soraya's chest rose and fell rapidly. Her voice cracked. "I will leave you." Silence fell. Even the storm seemed to quiet for a moment. Vrax stared at her in disbelief, then in rage. "You dare say that?" He hissed. She lifted her chin, tears in her eyes. "I mean it." Ethan felt his heart pound. She wasn't acting out of kindness anymore. She was fighting for him, and she wasn't hiding it. Vrax's whip crackled violently. "Both of you will suffer for this betrayal." Soraya stepped back, fear returning, but Ethan moved in front of her without thinking. "Run," he whispered to her. "What about you?" She whispered back, voice shaking. Ethan didn't answer. He just stared at Vrax, because he knew the storm outside wasn't the real danger. The real storm was standing right in front of them. For a long moment, Ethan and Vrax stood frozen, facing each other while the storm screamed outside like a wild beast trying to tear the entire world apart. Debris rattled across the floor. Lights flickered. The walls trembled. But none of it felt as dangerous as the silence between the two men. Vrax's armor glowed red, pulsing with rage. The whip in his hand crackled with deadly fire. His eyes burned like he wanted to tear Ethan apart with his bare claws. Ethan wasn't a warrior. He wasn't strong. He wasn't free. But he stepped in front of Soraya anyway, because this time, it wasn't about survival, that it was about someone who saw him as more than a slave. Vrax's voice broke the silence. "Move aside, now." Ethan didn't move. Soraya grabbed Ethan's arms from behind, her voice trembling. "You can't fight him. Vrax will kill you." "I know," Ethan whispered. But I won't let him hurt you. She gasped softly, her hands tightening around him. Vrax's expression twisted with hatred. My own wife. Choosing a slave over me? Soraya stepped beside Ethan, tears in her eyes, shoulders shaking. I am choosing kindness. Something you lost long ago. The hall trembled with another strike of thunder. But Vrax didn't flinch. He raised the glowing whip. You will regret those words, Soraya. In that exact moment, the ceiling behind them cracked open. A huge stone fell and shattered on the floor, sending servants screaming. Motion sensors activated emergency shields. Bathing the corridor in dim red lights, everything became chaotic. But Vrax moved through the chaos like a monster of fire. He swung the whip straight at Ethan. Soraya screamed, "Nitrogen monoxide!" Ethan braced his arms. The whip struck. A blast of pain shot through Ethan's side, throwing him to the ground. His breath vanished. The world spun. Sparks danced in his vision. He struggled to get up, but Vrax lifted the whip again, this time toward Soraya. "Vrax, stop!" She cried, stumbling backward. "You dare betray me, you?" Vrax roared. Ethan forced himself up, grabbing a broken metal rod from the floor. His hands shook. His vision blurred. But he raised the rod anyway. Vrax charged. Ethan swung. The rod slammed against Vrax's armor, not enough to break it, but enough to make him stumble. Vrax turned slowly, fury rising like a burning sun. "You think you can hurt me, human?" Ethan's chest heaved. "I won't let you hurt her." Vrax grabbed Ethan by the throat with one huge clawed hand and slammed him against the wall. Ethan choked, struggling to breathe. Soraya rushed forward, hitting Vrax's arm. "Let him go." "Silence." Vrax snarled, shoving her aside. Ethan felt consciousness slipping. His vision darkened. The storm sounded far away now, like he was sinking underwater. But then he heard Soraya cry out in pain, something inside. Ethan snapped. He grabbed Vrax's wrist with both hands, twisting with every bit of strength he had left. Vrax didn't expect the sudden force, and his grip loosened enough for Ethan to drop to the floor. Ethan gasped for air. Soraya ran toward him, but Ethan grabbed her hand. "Soraya, we have to go." "No," she whispered. "He'll hunt us. He already is." Vrax rose again, growling like an animal. "You cannot run from me. I will tear you both apart." A deep alarm suddenly howled through the estate. A robotic voice echoed overhead. "Warning! Outer wall breach. Security shields failing. Evacuate immediately." The storm was breaking the building. Chaos exploded everywhere. Servants ran. Doors slammed. Debris fell. The ground shook. Soraya pulled Ethan toward a side corridor. "There's an old escape tunnel through the lower chambers. Vrax never uses it." Vrax roared behind them. "You won't escape me." He lunged forward. Ethan grabbed Soraya's hand and ran. They sprinted through collapsing halls, dodging falling beams and broken lights. Ethan's lungs burned, but he didn't stop. Soraya clung to his arm, her breath shaky, her silver hair blowing wildly behind her. "Down here!" she cried, turning into a narrow staircase. Ethan followed her, nearly slipping as the entire building tilted from the storm's pressure. Below them, a dark passage stretched into the unknown. Old stone, dust, rusted pipes. A forgotten part of the estate. Ethan hesitated. "Are you sure this is safe?" "No," Soraya whispered. "But staying with him is death." Another explosion shook the estate. Vrax's roar echoed faintly behind them. Closer now. Soraya grabbed Ethan's hand tightly. "We escape tonight," she said, voice trembling with fear and hope. "Or we die trying." Ethan looked into her glowing eyes full of terror, pain, and something deeper. Something worth risking everything for. He squeezed her hand. "Then we run. Together." They stepped into the dark tunnel. leaving behind the monster furious enough to tear the entire world apart to find them. The old escape tunnel was cold, narrow, and filled with dust that made it hard to breathe. Ethan's footsteps echoed softly on the stone floor as he guided Saraya, who held tightly onto his arm. The only light came from a cracked, glowing crystal Saraya carried. Its soft blue glow barely enough to see the path ahead. The storm above them shook the estate, sending vibrations through the stone walls. Every time the ground trembled, Saraya flinched. Ethan kept her close, shielding her with his body despite the burning pain in his wounds. They had no idea how long the tunnel stretched, or if it even led to safety. But they knew one thing for sure: Vrax was coming. Ethan could hear faint roars behind them, echoing through the tunnels like a beast hunting its prey. Vrax's voice carried power, anger, and obsession. The kind of obsession that didn't stop until blood was spilled. Saraya tightened her grip on Ethan's arm. "He is close." "I know," Ethan said through heavy breaths. "We need to move faster." The tunnel dropped sharply downward, leading them to a large cavern. Water dripped from the ceiling, forming shallow pools on the ground. Strange glowing insects scattered across the walls, lighting the area with dim green sparkles. Saraya paused, breathing hard. "Ethan, I need to tell you something." Ethan turned to her, his chest rising and falling. "I should have told you this earlier," she said softly. "But I was afraid." Her eyes glistened in the dim light, full of fear and hope. "What is it?" Ethan asked. "There's a transport pod at the end of these tunnels," she whispered. "It leads to the outer forest far from Vrax's territory." Ethan felt relief wash over him. "That's good. We can escape." "No." Saraya shook her head slowly. "The pod only activates to my energy signature. And if Vrax catches us before we launch, he will destroy it." "And us?" Ethan stared at her. "Then we activate it fast and leave." Saraya looked down, voice trembling. "Ethan, if we escape, it means leaving everything behind. My planet, my people, my home." Ethan touched her hand gently. "You won't be leaving everything." She looked up at him, eyes shining. "You'll have me." Her breath caught in her throat. She placed her hand on his chest, near his heartbeat. "You gave me hope again," she whispered. "I haven't felt that in years." Another roar shook the tunnels, closer than before. Saraya flinched. "He's almost here." Ethan pulled her into the next corridor, broken and filled with rubble. They squeezed between fallen stones, crawled under broken beams, and climbed over old metal pipes. Ethan's wounds opened again, blood dripping onto the ground. Saraya tried to help, but Ethan shook his head. "No time. Keep moving." Finally, they saw it, a circular metal door at the end of the path. Behind it, a soft blue glow leaked through the cracks. "The pod chamber," Saraya said. Breathing hard, they ran to it, but before Saraya could touch the panel, the tunnel behind them exploded with a shockwave. The force threw both of them to the ground. Dust filled the air. Then a dark silhouette stepped out of the smoke. Vrax, his armor cracked and glowing, his eyes burning like fire, his massive frame filling the tunnel. He looked less like a ruler and more like a monster born from the storm. "You think you can run?" Vrax roared, voice shaking the walls. "You think you can take what is mine?" Saraya stood up, trembling but brave. "I am not yours." Vrax charged. Ethan lunged forward, grabbing a broken metal pipe. Pain shot through his body, but he didn't stop. He swung the pipe with everything he had. Vrax blocked it easily and punched Ethan across the chest. Ethan flew backward, crashing into the wall. He gasped, struggling to stand. "Ethan!" Saraya cried. Vrax turned on her. "And you, traitor!" He raised his glowing whip aimed at Saraya. Ethan forced himself up, sprinted forward, and slammed into Vrax from behind. They crashed to the ground. Vrax roared and threw Ethan aside, but Ethan grabbed his ankle, refusing to let go. "Saraya, activate the pod." Ethan shouted. Saraya hesitated, terror filling her eyes. "Go!" He screamed. Tears streamed down her face. She turned to the door and touched the panel. The chamber lit up. The pod powered on. Vrax ripped his leg free and raised his whip to strike Ethan. But Saraya screamed, "Enough!" A burst of bright blue energy exploded from her palms, hitting Vrax in the chest. He stumbled backward, roaring in pain. "Ethan, come!" she cried. Ethan crawled toward her, every bone in his body screaming. Vrax stood again, furious, limping but still powerful. Ethan reached the pod. Saraya pulled him inside. Vrax lunged, arms stretched to grab Saraya. The pod door slammed shut. Seraya hit the launch button. The pod shot forward with a blast of light, leaving Vrax behind. Screaming in rage as the tunnel collapsed around him, Ethan held Saraya close as the pod sped into the wilderness. Away from the estate, away from the cruelty, away from the monster who had controlled her life. Saraya rested her head on his shoulder, tears falling softly. "We're free," she whispered. Ethan wrapped his arms around her. "Not just free," he said quietly. "We start a new life now. Together." And as the pod carried them into the glowing alien forest, the storm behind them finally began to fade, but the bond between them, born in pain and danger, only grew stronger.